I didn't know I was helping him lie. That's the part that still messes with me, even now. If I'd known the full truth, if I'd understood what he was really asking me to hide, I swear I would have walked away. Or at least I tell myself that. The reality is, when you care about someone, when you're already halfway in love with them, you don't always stop to ask what it's going to cost you later. I just wanted to help Cody. It started on a random Tuesday night, the kind that feels completely forgettable until years later when you realize everything changed right there. I was sitting on my couch, half watching some stupid Netflix show, half scrolling on my phone, when my doorbell rang. No text, no warning, just the bell, sharp and urgent. When I opened the door, Cody was standing there like he'd been running from something. Hair messy, hoodie pulled up even though it wasn't cold, eyes wide and unfocused. He looked scared. I'd seen him drunk, angry, cocky, even broken once or twice, but never like this. "Hey," I said. "What's wrong?" He didn't answer right away, just stepped inside, pacing my living room like he didn't trust the walls to stay still. Finally, he stopped and looked at me. "I need a favor," he said. His voice was tight. "And I need you to promise something before I tell you." That should have been my first red flag. I laughed it off, trying to keep things light. "You sound like you're about to ask me to help you bury a body." He didn't smile. "Jesse," he said quietly, "I'm serious." Something in my chest tightened. I closed the door and leaned against it, suddenly very aware of how close he was. Cody had this way of filling a room without trying. Broad shoulders, confident posture, that stupidly handsome face that made people assume he had everything figured out. But right then, he looked like a guy on the edge of losing control. "Okay," I said. "What's going on?" He ran a hand through his hair, exhaled slowly, like he was bracing himself. "I messed up. Bad." I waited. Let him speak. "There are things people can't find out about. Not yet. Maybe not ever." He swallowed. "And I need you to cover for me. Just for a little while." Cover for him. Those words landed heavier than they should have. "Cover how?" I asked. He finally met my eyes. And that's when I knew this wasn't small. Whatever it was big enough to scare him, and Cody didn't scare easily. "If anyone asks," he said, "I need you to say I was with you. That night. All night." My stomach dropped. "What night?" He hesitated. "Just long enough. Saturday." "Saturday. 2 nights ago." The room felt quieter all of a sudden. My brain started filling in gaps I didn't even have facts for yet. "Cody, what happened on Saturday?" He shook his head. "I can't tell you. Not right now." That was the second red flag. I should have pushed harder. Should have said no until he explained everything. But instead, I found myself looking at him, really looking at the tension in his jaw, the way his hands were shaking just a little, the panic he was trying so hard to hide. "Is someone in danger?" I asked. "No," he said quickly. "No, nothing like that. It's just complicated." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "And you want me to lie?" Yes. There it was. Clean. Simple. Terrifying. "Why me?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then, softer. "Because you're the only person I trust." That did it. That cracked something open inside me that I'd spent months pretending wasn't there. Cody and I had been friends for almost a year. Gym buddies at first. Then late-night talks. Then the kind of closeness that lives in the space between words-long looks, almost touches, jokes that felt a little too loaded to be jokes. I told myself not to read into it. Told myself he was straight, unavailable, emotionally closed off. But standing there, hearing him say he trusted me more than anyone else, it felt intimate in a way I wasn't prepared for. "If I do this," I said slowly, "I need to know it won't come back on me." He nodded immediately. "It won't. Promise. I just need time." Time. Another dangerous word. I crossed my arms, staring at the floor, my mind racing. I knew lying for someone wasn't harmless. I wasn't stupid. But I also knew what it felt like to want to protect someone, especially someone who looked at you like you were the last solid thing in their world. "Okay," I said finally. He looked up fast. "Okay, I'll do it," I repeated. I'll say you were here. Relief washed over his face so quickly it almost scared me. He stepped closer without thinking, pulled me into a hug. It was tight, desperate. I could feel his heart pounding against my chest. "Thank you," he murmured. "You have no idea what this means to me." I hugged him back, my brain screaming even as my body relaxed into his warmth. I didn't know what I was protecting him from. I didn't know who else would get hurt. And I definitely didn't know that helping him hide the truth would end up exposing parts of me I wasn't ready to face. But if there's one thing I've learned since then, it's this: you don't have to know the price of a decision for it to ruin you later. The first lie came easier than I expected. That scared me more than anything. It happened the next morning. I was halfway through my coffee when my phone buzzed an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in my gut told me not to. "Hello, Jesse?" a woman's voice asked. Professional. Calm. Too calm. "This is Melissa Grant. I'm calling regarding Cody Miller." My heart slammed into my ribs. I straightened like someone could see me through the phone. "Okay? I just have a few questions." "Nothing serious," she said, which immediately told me it was serious. "Were you with Cody on Saturday night?" There it was. No warm-up. No small talk. I thought of Cody standing in my living room, eyes frantic, trusting me with something he couldn't say out loud. I didn't even pause long enough for my brain to catch up. "Yes," I said. "He was with me." "What time did he arrive?" The details hit me all at once. I'd assumed this would be vague, general, but she wanted specifics. Around 8, I said, choosing the number carefully. "We stayed in, watched movies. He crashed on my couch." A beat of silence. "And he didn't leave at all?" "No," I replied. "Not until Sunday morning." Another pause. I could hear typing. "Thank you, Jesse," she said finally. "That's very helpful." When the call ended, my hand was shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. Very helpful. I sat there staring at the blank screen, my coffee untouched, a strange heaviness settling in my chest. I just lied to a complete stranger about someone else's whereabouts. And judging by her tone, it wasn't about something small. Cody texted me an hour later. "Thank you. She called you, didn't she?" I didn't like that he already knew. "Yeah," I typed back. "What is this about?" The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I told you it's complicated. But you did good. I owe you. Owe you." That phrase stuck with me all day. When he came over that night, he looked lighter. Still tense, but less like he was about to implode. He brought beer, ordered takeout like nothing was wrong, like we were just two friends hanging out on a random Wednesday. But something had shifted. Every time he looked at me, there was gratitude there. Something deeper to something heavier. And every time our eyes met, I felt it pulling me in, tying me tighter to whatever mess he was in. "You okay?" he asked at one point, catching me staring. "Yeah," I lied. Funny how quickly that word became part of my vocabulary. Then his phone buzzed. He looked down at it, jaw tightening again. Whatever piece he'd found cracked instantly. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah," he said quickly, standing up. I gotta take this." He stepped into my kitchen, lowering his voice. I couldn't hear the words, but I could hear the tension. The clipped replies, the frustration bleeding through. When he came back, he grabbed his jacket. "I should go," he said. "Early day tomorrow." Disappointment hit me harder than it should have. "Cody," I said before I could stop myself. "You know you can tell me, right?" He froze with his hand on the door. For a second, I thought he might finally open up. "Tell me everything. Let me decide if I still wanted to be part of it." Instead, he smiled soft, sad, and guarded all at once. "I know," he said. "Just not yet." Then he was gone. That night, I lay awake replaying everything. The call, the lie, the way his eyes searched mine like he was anchoring himself to me. I told myself I was just helping a friend. But deep down, I knew the truth was more dangerous than that. I wasn't just covering for Cody anymore. I was choosing him, and I had no idea what that choice was going to cost me. The second lie didn't come as a question. came as an accusation. 2 days later, I was at work when my manager tapped my shoulder and told me someone was waiting for me downstairs. My first thought was that it was Cody. Maybe he needed me again. Maybe something had gone wrong. I remember feeling that same stupid pull in my chest, equal parts worry and anticipation. It wasn't Cody. It was a man in his 40s, broad-shouldered, wearing a jacket that screamed authority without needing a badge in sight. He introduced himself as Detective Harris and asked if we could talk somewhere private. My mouth went dry. We sat in a small conference room that smelled like stale coffee and printer ink. He didn't smile, didn't threaten, just looked at me like he already knew the answers and wanted to see how I deliver them. "You're friends with Cody Miller," he said. "Yes." "You told my colleague he was with you Saturday night." "Yes." He nodded slowly, folding his hands on the table. "I just want to confirm a few details." That's when it hit me this wasn't casual anymore. This wasn't someone double-checking a timeline for paperwork. This was serious. "What did you and Cody do that night?" he asked. I repeated the story. "Movies, takeout, beer, nothing special." I heard how rehearsed it sounded even as I said it. "What movies?" I blinked. I don't remember exactly." He raised an eyebrow, not unkindly. "Most people remember." "Look," I said, forcing a small laugh. It was just background noise. We weren't really paying attention. He studied me for a long moment. I could feel sweat gathering at the base of my neck. "Did Cody seem upset that night?" he asked. My instinct screamed to say no, but something about the way he phrased it, careful, deliberate, made me hesitate. "A little," I admitted. "He'd had a rough week." "Did he talk about it?" "No." Another pause. Then, "Are you aware that Cody is currently the last person seen with someone who hasn't been reachable since Saturday night?" My heart dropped so hard it felt physical. "Unreachable," I repeated. He watched my face closely now. "Yes, his ex-girlfriend. They had an argument earlier that evening." I felt the room tilt. Ex-girlfriend, argument, unreachable. "So, you think my voice cracked. I stopped, swallowed. "You think he did something to her?" He didn't answer that directly. "We're just trying to establish facts." Facts. The very thing I was actively distorting. "I told you," I said, more defensively than I meant to. "He was with me." "I know," Harris replied calmly. "That's why I'm here." When he left, I sat there for a long time, staring at the table, my reflection warped in the glossy surface. My phone buzzed twice while I was still frozen. "Cody, you talked to them, didn't you?" My fingers hovered over the screen. "Me, yes. Me. You didn't tell me she was missing." The response took longer this time. "Cody, she's not missing. She just doesn't want to be found." "Me, Cody. Cody, Jesse, please. I need you to trust me." Trust him. That word again. He came over that night unannounced. I was already wound tight, pacing my apartment like a caged animal. When I opened the door, he stepped in and locked it behind him, like the world outside was dangerous. "They talked to you," he said. "Yes," I snapped. "And you left out some pretty big details." He ran a hand over his face. "I was going to tell you." "When?" I demanded. "After they arrested you? After I was charged with lying for you." That got his attention. "I would never let that happen," he said sharply. "You already did," I shot back. "You put me in the middle of something I don't understand." Silence fell between us, thick and buzzing. Finally, he said, quieter, "I didn't hurt her." I searched his face. I wanted to believe him so badly it scared me. "Then what happened?" I asked. His jaw clenched. "I can't say." I laughed bitterly. "You keep saying that like it's enough." I asked again. "Why drag me into this?" His voice dropped. "Because you matter to me." My breath caught. "You're not just some guy I work out with," he continued. "You're the only place I feel safe right now." That should have felt like comfort. Instead, it felt like a trap closing around my chest. He reached out, hesitated, then rested his hand on my arm. "I won't let this blow back on you," he said. "I promise." I wanted to scream that promises didn't mean shit, that trust without truth was just blindness. But instead, I nodded. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. Even knowing what was at stake, I was already too deep to walk away. After that night, everything felt off. Not in a dramatic, obvious way. It was quieter than that, like a low hum under my skin that never shut off. I went to work, answered emails, laughed at the right moments, but my mind was always somewhere else. Always circling back to Cody, to the detective's words, to the lie that was no longer just a sentence I'd said, but a thing I was living inside. Cody started coming over more, never announced, never stayed the night, just showed up, like my apartment had become a checkpoint where he could breathe for a minute before going back out into the world. About a week later, he came over soaked from the rain. Hoodie clinging to him, hair darker, Messier. He kicked off his shoes and leaned against the door like he'd barely made it. "They found her car," he said. My heart stopped. "What?" "Abandoned. A few miles out of town." He stared at the floor. No sign of her. I felt sick. "Cody, you said dash." "I know what I said," he snapped, then immediately softened. I don't know what's happening anymore." I watched him unravel in front of me, and it terrified me how instinctive my response was. I crossed the room and pulled him into a hug. He stiffened for half a second, then collapsed into it like he'd been waiting for permission. He smelled like rain and stress and something familiar that felt dangerously close to home. "I didn't hurt her," he said into my shoulder. "I swear to you. I want to believe you," I whispered. He pulled back just enough to look at me. His eyes were red, glassy. "Do you?" he asked. I nodded. And that was the truth. Or at least the truth I needed it to be. "This isn't fair to you," he said quietly. I laughed under my breath. Little late for that. He looked at me like he wanted to say something else. Something bigger. But instead, he reached for my hand. Just my hand. The contact sent a jolt straight through me. "I don't know what I'd do without you," he said. That night after he left, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how easily my life had reorganized itself around him. How I was measuring my days by whether he'd text, whether he'd show up, whether he was okay. And how no one, not the detective, not my friends, not even Cody himself had asked if I was okay. The pressure finally cracked a few days later. Melissa Grant called me again. This time, she didn't pretend it was casual. "We have reason to believe Cody was not with you the entire night on Saturday," she said flatly. My pulse roared in my ears. "What reason?" "Witnesses place him near his ex-girlfriend's apartment around 10 p.m. "That's not possible," I said too quickly. "He was with me." There was a pause. Then, softer, "Jesse, lying to law enforcement carries serious consequences." I closed my eyes. "If you're covering for him because you feel loyal, or because you care about him," she continued, "I need you to understand that you're putting yourself at risk." At risk. That word finally cut through the fog. When the call ended, I sat there shaking, my phone warm in my hand. For the first time since this started, I allowed myself to imagine the fallout. Courtrooms, charges, my name tied to his forever. And beneath all that, the realization that Cody had let me believe one thing while the truth moved in another direction entirely. When he came over that night, I didn't let it slide. "They think you weren't with me the whole time," I said the moment he walked in. His face drained of color. "Did you leave?" I asked. "Even for a little while?" He didn't answer. "Cody." He looked away. That silence was louder than any confession. "You let me lie for you?" I said slowly, my voice shaking. "And you didn't even tell me the whole lie." "I was trying to protect you," he said. "No," I snapped. "You were protecting yourself." The words hung between us, sharp and undeniable. He stepped closer. "Jesse, please dash." "Don't," I said. "Don't touch me. Not right now." For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes that had nothing to do with the investigation. "You don't get to decide what I risk," I continued. "You don't get to keep pulling me deeper without telling me how far this goes." He swallowed hard. "If I tell you everything, you might walk away." I met his gaze, my chest aching. And if you don't, I might go down with you. That was the moment the balance shifted. Because suddenly, helping him wasn't just about loyalty or feelings or trust. It was about survival. And I had to decide how much truth I was really willing to face. He told me the truth an hour later. Not because he wanted to, because he had nowhere else left to put it. We were sitting across from each other on my couch, the space between us wide and deliberate now. No touching, no easy comfort, just the weight of everything we'd been avoiding. I went to see her, Cody said finally. Saturday night, after I left your place. My chest tightened. I stayed quiet. She'd been calling me all day, he continued. Texting, showing up at my gym, my work. I told her it was over, but she wouldn't let it go. You told me you were done with her months ago, I said. I was, he replied quickly. I am, but she didn't accept that. And I handled it badly. How badly? I asked. He dragged his hands down his face. We fought. She accused me of things. Threatened to tell people stuff that wasn't hers to tell. My heart skipped. What kind of stuff? His eyes flicked up to mine, then away again. About me, he said. About who I am. The room felt smaller. You mean? I started. I'm not straight, he said. The words came out flat, stripped of drama. I never was. I drew in a sharp breath. That confession landed harder than everything else combined. Not because I didn't suspect it, some part of me always had, but because of the timing, the cost. She knew, he went on. Or at least she suspected. She said she'd tell my parents, my boss, everyone. And that's why you went to see her, I said quietly. Yes. And after the fight? I pressed. He shook his head. I left. She was alive when I walked out. Angry, yeah, but alive. Then where is she? I asked. I don't know, he said. And for the first time, his voice truly broke. She stopped answering after that. I swear to you, Jesse, I didn't touch her. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. But the truth was, belief wasn't enough anymore. You still lied to me, I said. You let me lie for you while knowing the story was bigger. I was terrified, he shot back. I thought if I told you everything, you'd see me differently. I laughed bitterly. You mean like someone capable of ruining my life? That's not fair, he said. No, I agreed. It's accurate. Silence fell again. He looked smaller somehow, less sure, less untouchable. I never meant to drag you into this, he said. But once you were in, I couldn't lose you too. That admission hit deeper than I expected. Cody, I said slowly, you didn't just ask me to lie. You asked me to carry your fear, your secrets, your consequences. He looked at me, eyes raw. I didn't know who else to trust. I stood up, pacing. My hands were shaking again. Everything felt tangled, his confession, his vulnerability, the feelings I tried so hard to keep under control. You don't get to hide behind me, I said. Not anymore. What are you saying? He asked. I'm saying if you want me on your side, I replied, turning to face him. There are no more half-truths. No more not yet. If something else comes out and I'm blindsided again, I'm done. And if they call me in one more time, I'm telling the truth. His face went pale. You dash. I'd protect myself, I finished. For once. He stared at me like he was seeing me clearly for the first time. After a long moment, he nodded. Okay. It didn't feel like relief. It felt like standing on the edge of something unstable, hoping it would hold. He left soon after. No hug, no lingering looks, just a quiet thank you at the door that felt heavier than any apology. That night I didn't sleep, because for the first time since this started, I understood the real price of my decision. It wasn't just legal trouble. It wasn't just stress or fear. It was the slow realization that I tied my heart to someone who only told the truth when there was nowhere left to hide. And no matter how this ended, with his name cleared or his life in ruins, I knew one thing for sure. Helping him hide the truth had already changed me. and I wasn't sure I liked who I was becoming. The next week felt like borrowed time. Everything was quiet on the surface, no calls. No detectives showing up at my job. No urgent texts from Cody, but the silence was worse than the chaos. It felt like the moment right before something breaks. Like holding your breath without realizing it. Cody kept his distance. Not disappearing, but pulling back just enough to respect the line I'd drawn. A check-in text here. A short call there. Always careful. Always restrained. You okay? Just wanted you to know I'm thinking about you. I hated how much those messages still affected me. On Thursday night, I finally snapped. Not at him, at myself. I was sitting alone, staring at my phone, when it hit me how small my world had gotten. How everything revolved around waiting. Waiting for updates. Waiting for the truth to come out. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's when Melissa Grant called again. I want to be transparent with you, she said. We're getting closer to finding her. My stomach clenched. Alive. There was a pause. Too long. We don't know yet, she said carefully. But we've uncovered inconsistencies in Cody's timeline. Jesse, this is your opportunity to correct anything that might not be accurate. Correct. I thought about Cody's confession. About him leaving her apartment angry. About me saying he never left my place. I need time, I said. You don't have much, she replied. If this escalates, your statement will matter. When the call ended, I felt hollow. Cody came over later that night. I hadn't invited him. Somehow he knew. You talked to them again, he said as soon as I opened the door. I didn't bother denying it. They're close. His shoulders sagged. To what? To the truth, I said. We stood there, the door still open, the hallway light cutting a sharp line between us. For the first time, he didn't try to come inside. Say it, he said quietly. Whatever you're thinking. I swallowed. If they prove you weren't with me, my lie collapses. And you'll tell them, he said. Not accusing, just tired. Yes, that hurt him. I could see it. But instead of anger, something like understanding crossed his face. I don't blame you, he said. That somehow hurt worse. He finally stepped inside. We sat at opposite ends of the couch, like strangers learning each other's shapes again. You know what the worst part is? He said after a while. I didn't just lie to you to protect myself. I lied because I wanted to keep being the version of me you believed in. I looked at him. That version still exists. But you don't get to fake him. He nodded. I know. His phone buzzed. He checked it, face draining of color. They found her, he said. My heart stopped. Where? Hospital, he replied. She's alive. Relief crashed over me so hard I had to lean forward, elbows on my knees. I laughed once, breathless. Jesus. She overdosed, he continued. Intentional. She left a note. I looked up slowly. A note. She blamed me, he said. Said I abandoned her. That I ruined her. The room spun. But you didn't dash. I know, he cut in. But that won't matter to everyone. A knock sounded at my door. 3 sharp raps. We froze. Jesse, a voice called. It's Detective Harris. Cody looked at me, eyes searching. I never wanted this to be your mess. I stood up, legs unsteady. It already is. I opened the door. The next 10 minutes felt unreal. Harris explained that the situation had shifted, that the ex-girlfriend's statement contradicted some of the assumptions they'd made, that Cody was no longer considered a primary suspect but that the false alibi was now an issue. He turned to me. We need to revisit your statement. I took a breath. I wasn't honest, I said. Cody's head snapped up. Harris nodded once. Go on. I said Cody was with me all night. I continued, my voice steady despite everything shaking inside me. He wasn't. Silence filled the room. When Harris left, the apartment felt empty in a way it never had before. Cody stood there, unmoving. You did the right thing, he said quietly. It doesn't feel like it, I replied. He reached out this time, took my hand. Gentle, grounded. I don't know what happens next, he said. But I know I can't ask you to stay if staying costs you yourself. That was the first truly selfless thing he'd said. And for the first time, I believed him, because helping him hide the truth had almost destroyed us both. And telling it finally, fully, was the only thing that gave either of us a chance to survive what came next. The fallout didn't come all at once. Came in waves. The first was quiet emails from HR asking if I'd need time off. A formal notice that I might be contacted again. Friends texting, "You okay?" Because they could hear it in my voice even when I said I was fine. I wasn't charged, but I wasn't untouched either. Telling the truth didn't erase the fact that I'd lied, it just stopped the bleeding from getting worse. Cody stayed out of sight for a few days. No gym. No random drop-ins. Just space. I told myself that was good. Necessary. Healthy. Still hurt like hell. When he finally asked if we could talk, it wasn't dramatic. Just a simple text. "Can I come by? If not, I'll understand." I stared at it for a long time before replying. "Yeah, you can come." He looked different when he arrived. Not broken, just stripped down. No armor. No charm. Just Cody, raw and exhausted. "I'm not here to ask for anything," he said as soon as he stepped inside. "I just needed to say some things out loud." I nodded, sitting across from him again. Same couch. Different universe. "My ex is alive," he said. "She's getting help. And she admitted some things. About the threats. About the pressure." "That's good," I said. "And I meant it." He exhaled. "My parents know now. About me." I looked up. "How did that go?" A small, tired smile. "Bad. Then less bad. Then confusing. Which I guess is progress." I let out a breath. "Yeah, that tracks." He looked at me, then really looked. "I'm sorry," he said. "Not just for the lie, but for making you feel like your loyalty mattered more than your safety." That landed. "I don't regret helping you," I admitted. "I regret not understanding why I was willing to do it so fast." He nodded slowly. "Because you cared." "Because I cared," I echoed. "And because I thought being needed meant being valued." Silence. Honest. Clean. "I don't want to be the guy who takes," Cody said. "I want to be someone who deserves what he's given." I studied him. The urge to reach out was still there, but so was the memory of what it cost. "So what happens now?" I asked. "That depends on you," he said. "I don't want us built on secrets or debt. If you want me gone, I'll respect that." I stood, walked to the window, stared out at the city lights, thought about fear, about truth, about how easy it is to disappear into someone else's crisis and call it love. Then I turned back. "I don't want you gone," I said. "But I don't want to save you either." Relief flickered across his face, not the desperate kind. The real kind. "Then maybe," he said softly, "we start over. No lies. No hiding. Just honesty." "Slow," I said. He nodded. "Slow." For the first time since all of this began, it felt like a choice, not a trap. Helping him hide the truth nearly ruined me. But standing there, finally on equal ground, I understood the real lesson. Love doesn't ask you to disappear for it. And the right kind of honesty doesn't destroy you, it gives you back to yourself. We didn't rush into anything after that. No dramatic confession. No sudden kiss that fixed everything. Just time, space, and honesty practiced awkwardly at first, like a muscle that hadn't been used enough. Cody started therapy. Not because anyone forced him to, because he needed it. He told me about the sessions in small pieces, never asking for reassurance, never leaning on me to tell him he was fine. That mattered more than I expected. I focused on myself for once. Said no when I needed to. Let the phone ring. Let the silence exist without filling it with worry. It was uncomfortable. It was necessary. A month later, we met for coffee. Neutral ground. Daylight. No shadows to hide in. He was already there when I arrived, tapping his fingers against the cup, nervous in a way I hadn't seen before. "Hey," he said. "Hey." We sat, talked about nothing at first. Work, weather, ordinary stuff. Then he looked at me, steady and open. I don't want to be someone you had to survive, he said. I want to be someone you choose. I let that sink in. I'm not scared of you anymore, I said slowly. But I'm also not willing to lose myself again. I wouldn't ask you to, he replied. No hesitation. That's when I knew. Not because everything was fixed. Not because the past didn't still exist. But because for the first time we were standing in the truth without flinching. We walked outside together. The city felt different, lighter, like it wasn't pressing in on my chest anymore. When he reached for my hand, he waited. Really waited. Lying alone in my bed that night, I thought back to the moment it all started, him at my door, asking me to promise before I knew the cost. I understood something now that I didn't then. Helping him hide the